Here we go. I am here with a near and dear,
Family member.
a new near and dear family member, Mr. Conrad. Uh, how should we address you? Have you made any titles for yourself?
Uh,
Boo Sensei,
I've had
Maestro,
I've had
Professor.
that. When I was younger and had a bigger ego, I went around collecting titles. And I think that was just a process for me to go through. And so, Conrad is fine, brother is fine, or hey you, that's fine as well too.
Right on. Well, you and I met at the Kung Fu tournament, the underground Kung Fu tournament in San Francisco earlier this year. And uh, I was going around interviewing all of the prominent masters there, and I asked one question to all of them. And it was, what does tradition mean to you? Right? And the other question, a buddy of mine challenged me, my buddy Matt Lucas. He was like, man, a great follow-up question for that would have been, whose rules do you follow? Whose rules do you break?
Hmm. Right.
Like these are good questions in the conversation of tradition, right? But I say that to say this, you had a great answer. Everyone's talking about respect and everyone's talking about lineage and everyone's talking about heritage and everyone's talking about history. You were talking about adapt. And I was like, huh, I like this guy.
Well, I like the interviewer.
So, could you let our listeners know a little bit about your skill sets, what you've practiced?
Sure. If I may, I'd like to just walk everyone through my story and how I arrived to this day in the martial arts world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, my family immigrated to the U.S. from Vietnam in 1975, and we landed in Denver, Colorado.
Hmm.
And this was, yeah, back in the 70s. There wasn't a big Asian population
Uh-huh.
in that area. And then from Denver, we even went to a smaller place called Aurora, Colorado. And I grew up there. I faced a lot of racism, prejudice. As a kid growing up during that time, I didn't know that was racism, that was prejudice. I just thought, I didn't fit in. I don't feel comfortable. A lot of time people talking to me, it felt weird. But hey, that's just kid growing up. I never knew that that was a type of racism. But I hold no ill feelings to anybody or anyone that exhibited that action towards me because that was just during the time, that was the culture of that time. And that was just other kids just processing like, what is this kid here? He doesn't look like the rest of us. And so, no, it was interesting growing up. I was picked on, I was bullied, and it wasn't until I was about 7, 8 years old that my parents, we went to a relative's house and they had a VHS of Enter the Dragon. And so my parents, allowed me to watch that, and I thought, what? Who is this Asian guy that's so powerful and so cool and moving like this? This is amazing. And so I was able to, I guess, attach that to my heritage, and it was something that I could be proud of because every day I woke up, there was a handful of Asian families in all of Aurora, and going through school. There, I can only remember a few classes where there was another Asian kid in the class. And so, having Bruce Lee,
Yeah.
I was just like, wow, this is something that I can be proud of finally, because I was embarrassed being Asian. I wish I was white. And
Mm,
it was so funny. I pretended I was white. And so I
mm,
always told my parents to stay home, don't go to these events, in case kids would see my parents and see that they were Asian. And so
mm.
that's how white I want it to be. But
Um,
I finally found something that I could be proud of
yeah.
growing up.
If I could interject with a point of relatedness, of course, I too got my start with Bruce Lee as well.
Really?
I think mine was Chinese Connection, that one scene where he was doing cloud hands and they got all
Oh,
wavy and psychedelic.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, whoa, what is that? Right. Um, and then of course the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, big old footprint on his chest. Like those were the iconic shots for me as a kid. But interestingly enough, I know Aurora, Colorado. The reason why I know it is because my college fraternity brother's from there, and he had
Wow.
gotten married when we graduated from college, and I went there.
Oh, cool.
And I relate to this because we were at some bar, and sure enough, I'm the guy that stands out, got picked on. And there may very well have been a fight had it not been for this whole band of, all my friends that were behind me. And
Wow.
I was just kind of oblivious to it. And I swear to God, it was just like a week ago that I was just thinking, I was like, wow, I could have really been hurt that night. You know? And then here you are telling the story about your childhood and the racism you endured. And I was like, wow, wouldn't you know?
What year was this when you were at the bar?
2000, like you were well grown. And it was 2000 and 2003.
2003. Imagine a kid growing up in the 80s.
Yeah,
The early 80s. And this was 2003. It's much more diverse than and I use that word diverse loosely, but it is much more diverse than it was back in the 80s. So,
relative, right? Yeah.
absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay, so growing up in Colorado, you have Bruce Lee to look up to. Were you at the Bruce Lee event in San Francisco just recently?
No, no, I wasn't. I think I was out of town during that time. But yeah, it's so cool to be in San Francisco, his birthplace, and everything like that. And back to the bullying part. Uh,
Yeah.
it's interesting, and back to the Bruce Lee part as well too. It's interesting. A lot of martial artists that I talk to, I would say maybe 60, 70, maybe 80% of martial artists I talk to, they got into it for one of two reasons, into martial arts. One was Bruce Lee, and the other is bullying. And so I found I have both Bruce Lee and
The
bullying.
magic combo.
Yeah, the magic combo. So it's interesting how a lot of people arrive in martial arts through through that way.
Mhm, mhm.
And so yeah, after I watched Enter the Dragon, I bugged my parents to let me do martial arts.
You were like 8, 9 at this time?
Yeah, yeah, and so uh, I wanted to do martial arts. So at that time, my parents they didn't have a lot of money, so they do the typical Asian thing. They fix it themselves, right? And so my parents are like, well, your dad has a black belt in Aikido. He'll just Dad'll just teach you Aikido. I thought, okay, fine, it's martial arts. I'll learn it. And I didn't know what Aikido was. I knew it was a martial arts. That was about it. And so when he started training me, I was, and if anybody's listening there and you're not sure what Aikido is, let me just say it's very far away from what Bruce Lee was doing in Enter the Dragon. And so I was thinking, where's all the kicks and the watas and the jumping and flying kicks and the punches and everything like that? Yeah, and I trained with my dad for a couple years. He would wake us up early in the morning and we would train, and he would train with teach my brother as well too. My brother still continues to train Aikido. He's an Aikido instructor over in Denver as well too. So he continues to train that. But I still bug my parents after about 2 years. I was like, I want the wata stuff. Come on, and they finally gave in, and they allowed me to go to a local martial arts school called Mile High Karate that taught Taekwondo. And finally, I was, I knew by that time that it wasn't Jeet Kune Do or the art that Bruce Lee did, but it was close enough. So that was the punching, the kicking, the jumping, and if you wanted to add in the wattage, you feel free to do so. And so I was super happy to start Taekwondo. I trained in Taekwondo well into my college years, very intensely, and eventually, I got up to fifth degree black belt, and this was after several more years of training, of course. But I competed all over Colorado. I competed internationally as well too in Taekwondo, and I still love it. I think Taekwondo's wonderful training for kids. It's great for coordination, for discipline, for health, and physical fitness as well too. So it's a wonderful art.
So can I ask, did you do the sport taekwondo or the
Yes.
self-defense taekwondo or sparring taekwondo? Like what
Yeah,
variant?
this was a taekwondo through the Junri lineage, who was also a friend of Bruce Lee,
Mhm.
and it was before the Olympic taekwondo, and so we competed in the open tournaments. Back when I was competing, there taekwondo didn't really have their own competition, and so we competed in the open tournaments.
Oh, okay. I mean, like point.
Point fighting.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then so I still practice Taekwondo. All these arts I still try to practice. I find time to practice
Hmm.
d during my training. And then once I went to college, I still wanted to learn Bruce Lee's art. And luckily, I ran into Shifu Jeff Jones, who's a student under Dan Inosanto.
Okay.
Yeah,
Getting closer and
oh
closer.
my gosh, that was like hitting the jackpot. I was like, oh my gosh, Bruce Lee's martial. And this was in the early 90s when I hooked up with Seafood Jeff. And oh man, that was the latest and greatest in the technology of martial arts. This hand trapping. And back in those days, it was called JKD slash Kali. Because if you were part of the Dan Inosanto group, you put that slash in and you taught Kali along with the Jeet Kune Do. And so I got to learn Kali and Jeet Kune Do. I learned from Jeff for 2 years. And luckily, Jeff, since there was no Jeet Kune Do schools in Denver, Jeff was going to school at the University of Colorado in Denver, where I was going as well too. And since there was no school, he was looking for somebody that could pick up the art really quick, and so he could just train and keep his skills current as well too. And so he taught me as fast as I could learn, and I went home, I did my homework, I trained, and we just came back and we just kept training. And so I was able to learn at a really accelerated pace. And so I was super lucky to do that, especially
Ah.
during those times when that was the latest in the technology for me, anyways, of what I thought was martial arts.
So the JKD, let me guess, there's like the Chisao stuff.
Yes, the modified Wing Chun, if you will.
Yeah, and then the Kali, I'd imagine stick, I'd imagine karambit, I'd
Mm,
imagine machete.
yes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Disarms.
Yeah, stick, blade,
Fun.
and this was in the early 90s, before,
Yeah.
now Kali's kind of a hot art. There's a lot of famous practitioners training it. And you see it in the movies as well too. So it's a hot art. But back then, no one knew what the heck that was.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's cool. When I was training in Hawaii in 98, I got turned on to the Kali, the Eskrima,
Mm,
um, and also the Pinjat Silat as well.
yes.
And so that's the next. When are we going to get to the Silat?
Yes, we're headed there. We're
We're
headed there.
heading
That's the
there.
next art. Because
Okay.
back in those days, Guru Danino Santo, he was just started getting into Silat.
Uh-huh.
And there were all these articles in Black Belt and Inside Kung Fu and other magazines at that time about Guru Dan training Silat. And I remember reading these articles, and Guru Dan was being quoted as saying things like CLOT's one of the most advanced systems I've studied. It's one of the most deadly systems I've studied. It has advanced hand trapping and then the foot trapping. He's never seen anything like that before. And I remember reading these articles thinking, oh my gosh, I want to learn the CLOT so much. And even back then, Sifu Jeff, he learned some CLOT, but when he taught it, he's like, "Oh, we gotta keep this secret. You know, this is some secret stuff here, and don't show this to anybody." And yeah, and so when I finished school at the University of Colorado, Denver, I went to chiropractic college in San Jose. And
New life.
oh, it's the other one, Palmer West.
Oh,
Yeah, Life West is one of the other ones, and
all right.
I think Life West is in Hayward.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Dude, you're like me. I'm like you.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's why when I talked to you, I was like, and then I read more about your bio, and I read, I saw what you were doing. I was like, that's why I say we're like brothers, we're kindred spirits, if you will.
Right on.
And so, yeah, and so when I went to chiropractic school, you wouldn't believe it. One of the clinical professors there was a CLOT teacher. Exactly. Exactly. And so he was also teaching the same system as Guru Dan was learning.
What's the
And
guy's
so
name?
Silat Sarak,
What's the professor's name?
Dr. Andre Kanushkakin, he's Dutch Indo, and he's a student of Maurice de Tours as well as Rudy Terlinden, some of the OGs of Silat in the US. And so, oh yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, a Silat teacher. I cannot believe this. This is crazy. So yeah, of course, I went and I bugged him to teach me. I eventually became a student of his. And I trained in the clinic. We would find an open room and we would train or see lot, and he would teach me. I'd go to his house. He would teach me. I was just so happy and so lucky. And back in those days, again, nobody knew what Silat was, and only the Dan Inosanto fan club was into it.
Mhm.
And so, oh gosh, I was just so happy. Silat was really cool because it's not the only art that's like this, but it's one of the arts that is like this. It's a principle-based system where concepts, principles more important than the techniques itself. And so I just love learning it. It also has sacred geometry, the triangle, the square, circle, and the
Oh yeah.
different platforms for footwork and things like that. So it can get very mystical as well too on that side with the healing and the internal energy. It gets a little funky. You might see it up in McDojo Life from time to time because it gets a little crossover to that super funkiness, like some other arts do. But
Yeah.
it's all there. If you're super nerdy about it, it's so
Oh yeah.
deep on so many levels.
For sure. Then it starts getting into like that Mopai kind of Johnny Chang stuff. Uh,
Mm,
all that
mm.
mystical black magic, sorcery stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and if you're into that, it's there for you as well too. But and so I learned from Dr. Andre all through a chiropractic school, and then when I finished chiropractic school, I was going to move back to Denver to start my practice, and so he said, "Oh, you're going back to Denver? One of my teachers lives in Denver, Willem de Tours of the de Tours brothers, who brought Silat Sarak to the United States." I was like, no way! And so he made the introduction. So I became a student of Uncle Bill, Willem de Tours, who's in his 90s nowadays. He's still jumping around and doing all his stuff. And what was cool about Uncle Bill is he not only taught Sarak, the Silat art, but he also taught an art known as Kuntao. And
Mhm.
Kuntao is basically Chinese Kung Fu by way of Indonesia. And so,
Magic in that stuff too.
oh yeah, and he has the snake, the praying mantis. He does Bagua as well too, and
Oh,
Xing Yi.
man.
Yeah. You can see that it is Xingyi, but it's not Xingyi as practiced like I guess the more popular way of doing it. But a Xingyi person could look and go, "That's Xingyi-ish," or when he does his Bagua, a Bagua person will say, "That's Bagua-ish for
Yeah,
sure."
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So I trained with Uncle Bill from 94, 95 until current. Even though I'm here in San Francisco and he's in Colorado, he allows me to hop in on Zoom and train online, which I did just this morning. And he's just so inspiring. He's 90 years old. He's still up and at 'em and alive and kicking, if you will. Just so cool to see my teacher living in such a healthful way through martial arts.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And so I became a student of Uncle Bill and Kun Tao and Silat as well too. And then Uncle Bill introduced me to his friend Wayne Welsh, who was a teacher of Bagua Zhang, Xing Yi, and Tai Chi, and more of the traditional way. And when he introduced me to Uncle Wayne, and he said, if you want to learn the traditional way, feel free to learn from him. I thought, no way, because growing up in the Kung Fu theater days, there was always, the Shaolin versus Wudong kind of thing. And then reading Inside Kung Fu, there would be articles on Bagua Zhang, on Xing Yi, and the internal crowns of, internal Chinese martial arts and the three crowns there. And I thought, I always wanted to learn it, not just the physical movements, but the mysticism, the I Ching, the Wu Xing, all that stuff. I wanted to learn that too. And so when I hooked up with Uncle Wayne, I learned Fu style Bagua Zhang as well as some other systems of Bagua Zhang that he learned as well too. So I do the more traditional Bagua, the traditional Xingyi, and Tai Chi as well too. And so super lucky to learn from Uncle Wayne. I learned from both Uncle Bill and Uncle Wayne for about 10 years. Uh, and that's when I moved to San Francisco. I built up my clinics. We had 5 clinics. I built them up, and then I was lucky enough to figure out a way so that I could exit my practice without being there. Yeah, I don't make as much as I used to, but I have more free time. And so I moved to San Francisco with my family, and because my wife's family is from here, and so we moved to San Francisco.
yeah.
And then up the street from the house was a Muay Thai gym. And I was like, oh, girl, I always want to learn Muay Thai. So I walked in one day and I thought, coming from a
It's called
traditional
Tiger.
martial, I'm sorry.
Tiger? Which Muay Thai
Oh,
school?
World Team USA.
Okay.
Yeah, they have an event coming up next. It's really cool. They have an event coming up called Legends next week. It's either on the battleship or right in front of a battleship. It's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know how he did it. He did it before. The last time it was like right in front of the battleship. But I don't know if he's trying to get on the battleship this time. But yeah, it's a really cool event. But yeah, so coming in from a traditional martial art background, I thought, oh, these guys, they're probably gonna drag their knuckles on the ground and grunt at you, yeah, because that's what I imagine, these kind of gyms are. But yeah, luckily, no. Super nice people, very humble, very kind people as well too. And I just thought from day one, wow, this is a cool gym. I'll start training here. And so I start training. I've been training here for almost 20 years now. And
Wow.
yeah, and then they had a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program. I would watch those guys roll on the ground, and of course, the UFC already happened with Royce Gracie,
Mhm.
and I always wanted to learn Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And so, a few months after starting Muay Thai, I jumped into the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well too. So,
You're
just
cross training.
Oh yeah, yeah, all at the same time.
Uh-huh.
And just last year, I went back to Thailand to receive. I trained with Master Toddy and also receive a certification from him and the Thai Ministry of Education as an instructor of Muay Thai, a crew.
Oh,
Yeah, and so that was really cool to be able to go over to Thailand, train, and become certified as a teacher, a
in
crew in Muay
Bangkok?
Thai. I'm sorry?
In Bangkok, which city?
Yeah, Bangkok.
Oh,
Yes,
cool,
in
cool, cool.
Bangkok. And so, of course, in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm a second degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Uh, it's super cool art as well too. Yeah, it bangs up the body, of course, but totally worth it. So
Uh-huh.
worth it. And of course, as I'm getting older, and also my profession as a chiropractor, I'm figuring ways to make it sustainable at an old age, and so I can continue to train. I don't train as intensely as I used to 20 years ago, of course. I can still train to pretty intense level without injury as well too. So I just have to be careful of how often I throttle it, and then I've got to make sure I have my recovery and everything as well too. So uh, and so during COVID, all the gyms were shut down, and
Mhm.
so the only thing that was really open was this Iaido school.
Whoa, you over here drawing swords now.
Yeah, yeah. So I always love and admired the katana.
You know,
And I always knew that, they're so
you could
precise and
be far
swing.
away too.
I'm sorry?
You could be far away too, right? It's pretty.
Yes, exactly. You don't need to touch anybody. So it was a perfect COVID martial art. And you stay at least a katana's length away from people.
And then two katanas, that's your 6 feet.
Yes, that's right.
Whoa!
So that was a perfect COVID martial art, and I've been in Iaido probably for I'd say, yeah, 5 years now. Since COVID,
Nice.
and just recently, yeah, and so I still train Idol. I received my Shodan last year as well too, my first degree. And then just recently, I've been taken under the wing of Master Las Wang, and he's a Hung Gar instructor under YC Wang. And he's teaching me Titsin, the iron wire set. And
Yeah.
I practice over 60 sets. I haven't counted lately, but I practice a lot of sets. And I keep telling myself, no more sets, no more sets, because I'm running out of time on training them all to keep current. But then he said, hey, you want to learn the iron wire? And I was like, oh gosh, I always wanted to learn that. I was like, yeah, one more set. I keep telling myself no more, and then one comes up, and I'm like, oh, okay.
That's so
Because I
cute.
can't say no. I can't say no. I mean, Seafood Lass is a legend in the Chinatown community. He's seen so much. He's been around for a long time, and for him to offer that to me, I just felt so honored. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, I'll learn it. I didn't know it would take that. The set takes like 10 minutes to finish. I thought it'd be a little
Wow.
faster, but yeah, it's their internal set, and so it's kind of their internal set, and it's pretty long. Luckily, there's a lot of repeat movements, but it takes like 10 minutes to finish that set.
Wow. Whoa. So I'm sure you didn't even mention all the arts you do because there's still Wing Chun.
Yeah, yeah, that's part of the Jeet Kune Do. I branched off and did some Wing Chun with Sifu Samuel Kwok as well
You
too.
train with, man, you're just,
I'm a nerd. If you follow me online, I call myself a man martial arts nerd, and I'm just a nerd. I really am. And
I was gonna call you the supreme vessel. Just,
no, no, you call me the supreme nerd.
well, the reason why this is inspiring to me, okay, here on my altar, my Shaolin training was at Wenwu School in El Cerrito, under the Guolin Ying line,
Wow.
also a prominent San Francisco master, right?
Yeah.
And in this particular school, the master wasn't famous for being a master. He was famous for being a student.
Mm,
And during the Cultural Revolution, when all the masters ran off to Taiwan or Malaysia or Singapore, wherever they went to, right? He was in Taiwan at the time, and he had such a work ethic and such a capacity to receive that all the masters sought him.
mm,
And so he had the best Shaolin teacher, he had the best Tai Chi teacher, he had the
oh,
best. His Chinese medicine doctor was the emperor's doctor.
wow.
His calligraphy teacher was the emperor's brother. Like, it's just the best people went and sought him out because he was such a capable vessel of
Mm,
receiving it all. And to what we were talking about before we started the camera was he gave each art its due respect and its due expression. And really, really remarkable to kind of have that beginner's mind and that kung fu work ethic, man, to just keep grinding.
right.
So I'm curious, amongst all these arts, what principles are you able to find that translate across the board?
Uh, there's quite a bit. There's quite a bit. One thing I will say, if you're online or even if you're not online, sometimes there's a lot of bickering in martial arts.
Mhm.
There's a lot of, and the funny thing is, there's a lot of inter-art bickering.
Yeah.
And I see that with many arts, whether that's Silat or the Chinese martial arts like Bagua, Xingyi, Tai Chi. Uh, it's Jeet Kune Do as well too. There's this inner art bickering, and that's very interesting to me because I find all arts have more in common than in difference. And inside an art or inter art, like let's just look at Baguazhang, for example. There's so many families and lineages of Baguazhang. There's a lot of similarities and much less differences than if you could do Baguazhang versus Taekwondo. But yeah, inside Baguazhang, people are bickering left and right, and I think if somebody is open-minded, if they, I don't want, for lack of a better word, if they socialize more, they'll realize that we have a lot more in common than we have in difference. And if we look at that, what we have in common, we can always start from a place of respect. I post myself doing forms or katas or sets or whatever, and I get these comments sometimes. Oh, you're not doing it right this way. You're not doing it right. You're not doing, and I get it. I get it. I used to be there myself. I used to be that person saying, "Yeah, that's not how we do it. That's inferior. Look at how we do it. This is superior." And so I get it. I used to be there. So I hold no animosity against anybody who writes those things right away. Please keep writing because one, that helps the algorithms of
Algorithm,
my
yeah.
videos to drive it up. I'm cool with that. And two, I understand where you are in your journey. And so I was there because I was there myself. So one thing is that we have so much in common amongst martial artists. All right. So what are the common things? One thing, most martial arts, because I can't say all martial arts, but most martial arts, we're great at translating movement as it relates to combat. So whether you do Tai Chi or Muay Thai or whatever, in Muay Thai, there's shadow boxing and there's actual sets in Muay Thai. They're very short, but there's sets in certain arts of Muay Thai. I won't say it's in Muay Thai because a lot of gyms don't teach these sets, but there are sets if you want to learn them. That 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 teaches you movement and then it relates it to combat. And so, in the Chinese systems, for example, you'll learn a form or a set, and then later on, your teachers will relate that and how it translates to combat. Same thing in whether that's Taekwondo forms that we do, or Silat, what we call jurus, which are forms as well too. And so that's one thing that a lot of arts do. And I get it. Some arts don't have any forms. Like Aikido doesn't really have any sets, although they do have some weapon sets. They don't tend to have hand sets, for example, or arts like Jeet Kune Do, they don't have sets, but they still shadow box. And so they're still moving their body. And it's more it's a little more obvious how it relates to combat, but that's an easy obviousness. Like anyone can say, okay, you're punching somebody in the face here. Okay, but to do a motion and then to be able to translate these motions between a block or a wrist grab or a reverse wrist grab or a lock or something like that, or an eye strike or something, that's a higher level, but it's still pretty much the same principle of figuring how the body moves and how it relates to combat. And so I found that the more advanced teachers, and it doesn't matter which lineage they are, whether that's Aikido or Bagwazang or Silat. They could even look at a dancer that's doing Zumba or tango or whatever, and they go, "Oh, you could also do this. You could do that. You could do this, and you could throw this guy like that." And so that's one commonality that I see between all the arts as well too.
That's so funny you use that example of the dance because I remember being in China one year and we were at some propaganda restaurant and the whole theme was like Maoist propaganda. And they even had the service staff come out and do this dance, right? And the dance it like spoke to the toils of the public in the communist revolution, right? And so they're laboring, they're toiling, they're digging trenches, they're feeling sandbags, they're doing hard labor. And so all these dance moves illustrate the hard life of the people. And so here we are, my Kung Fu brothers. I'm like, oh shit, they just broke somebody's neck. Oh shit, they just there's a
Right,
takedown. Oh shit, they just threw somebody. They don't even know what they're doing.
right.
Wow, fun, fun, fun. Okay, so then now another question, because you also work with firearms. And I'm curious, have you translated the Iaido to firearms drawing? Has that come up at all?
Um, you know, I would say a lot of what I learned from martial arts made me better at firearms too. And the guys that I'm learning the firearms from, they're like this current group that I'm with. They're like some badass police officers. There's one, he's been in over 20 shootouts, and he's made like over almost 200 federal arrests and things like that. So, but guess what? He's a martial artist. And the reason he accepted me into the group, and I'm a non-law enforcement officer here, I'm just a normal guy. He accepted me into the group because I'm a martial artist. And he said this. He said, these guys who I train, if they're not doing martial arts, it's so hard to train them. One, they don't have the discipline to look at the details of what I'm teaching. Two, they don't have the discipline of going home to train it and working on it like a kata or things like that. And that's just, again, that's the commonality of martial arts. One, we understand form, right? When you learn a form, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. In that system, in that line. We can't say it's right and wrong for everybody, but in that line in the school, generally, if you do a horse stance, your toes should be like this, your knees should be like this, your back and your hips should be like this in this school. And if you're not doing it that way, you're doing it wrong. And so it's the same thing in firearms. If you're gripping that firearm and your grip's off, and then your trigger press is funky and your sight alignment's off, and you're presenting it all funky all the time, and you don't have that discipline of learning that form, uh, then just going to take you longer to get good at it. And so that translates as well too. So I think in martial arts, like you were asking, like what translates and permeates amongst different arts, and the root principle or root uh, idea that we can have amongst all arts is that discipline, the discipline to look at the details, that discipline, and some people poo-poo forms. The guys in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the guys in Muay Thai, they'll poo-poo forms because they're like, or even Jeet Kune Do lines. I mean, they'll say, "Oh, the forms are useless." Da, da, da. No, I don't think so. If you have the discipline to do these forms and to have the mindfulness to do it exact and to do it precise and to make it repeatable, that discipline carries over. It doesn't matter if you're doing firearms or archery or pickleball or whatever, you bring that discipline, you'll be better at those other disciplines because of your foundation and your tradition from those other arts.
I agree. Yeah, my teacher in Wudang, he would say plain and simple, if you can do kung fu, you can do anything.
Right.
And it's not that it makes you superhuman or special in any way. It just gives you a work ethic that you'll commit yourself to keep making mistakes until you get it right.
And
Ooh.
that's another point that permeates all arts. I think once we reach a certain level, it's no longer you versus him, you versus your enemy, you versus your opponent, you versus your partner. It's kind of you versus you. And nothing, well, I can't say nothing. I will say training forms helps you prepare for you versus you because it literally is you versus you, trying to do it right, trying to put your foot in the right place, your knee, your hand, your hips, your head, everything in the right place. It's a tough thing to do sometimes.
Sure. Yeah, and form doesn't change, you do. And so it's such a great landmark signpost to kind of gauge how you evolve, right? So to that point, do you have any forms that you go back to as like bread and butter is that you can always fall back on and kind of gauge where you're at with? My buddy calls it your test track, it's like something that you can always fall back on and kind of get an assessment or a reboot of who you are, where you're at with your work.
I don't have anything like that because are you talking about like a certain form or a set or an art?
Sequence, practice, mindset, habit, is there something that kind of gets you in tune into your potential?
Oh, I don't know. I think my mindset is simply train, keep on training. Enlightenment's in the training. Shut up and keep on training and train some more. That's it. I put my nose to the grindstone and I train. Sure, I'll look up from the grindstone and look around and see all the bickering and how I could do it better or whatever. And then I just put my nose back on the grindstone and just keep going. I think that's just it for me. The beauty of martial arts is one, it's endless. It's endless. Even if it's just one art, it can still be endless, what we were talking about before we start recording, it's a new world now. Back in the 70s, the 80s, it was faux pas. It was bad, and I think maybe still in some circles, it's bad to learn different arts and to it's not PC, but be a martial arts whore. Just go all over the place and learn as much as you can. Some people look at it like that, like, oh, that's not right. You need to just stick to one art. And I respect that. If that's someone's viewpoint, I respect that. It's just, luckily nowadays, if you like Chinese food, please continue eating Chinese food. There's nothing wrong with trying a little Italian, nothing wrong with trying a little French food. Nothing wrong with even learning to cook those foods as well too. It can only, I think it can only make your Chinese food better if you learn to cook other foods as well too. And nowadays we have something called fusion. And it's all good. It's all good. You don't have to just because you love one thing doesn't mean you have to hate something else.
Yeah. Well, I think the danger of this kind of soup du jour that's actually quite popular in our modern era is because it also comes with a degree of entitlement, with a degree of I'm paying tuition, so service me.
Mm,
And, uh, and then in that regard, maybe I want to be serviced. I don't want to work hard. I want to be shown and taught. I don't want to earn and attain. Right. And this is a different culture in the martial arts, especially like dabble arts. But I too have dabbled. However, I think I'm able to dabble and gain so much from it. And I think you're similar in that you have a strong foundation in one thing first, right? And then it's from that foundation that you can branch out. But people that are just dabble start to finish, even Bruce Lee said, I don't care about the 10,000 things you did once. I care about that one kick you did 10,000 times.
absolutely.
And so I think it's because you have such a strong foundation that you're able to explore principles through other lenses. And then that's very reminiscent of Mr. Miyamoto Musashi, right? Who was able to be a carpenter and a gardener and an auto mechanic and a flower arranger and all these things. And all those arts only made him a better swordsman. Right?
Right.
And it's because he had a foundation in one thing first. And so I think that's a really important distinction to make because right now, double click, right swipe, I can dabble to no
Right.
end, right? But without a foundation and something, without an alphabet, you know,
Hmm.
poetry.
Right. Right. I think it is a double-edged sword,
Mhm.
just like everything in life is. The internet's a double-edged sword. You could use it in a positive way, and a lot of people use it in a negative way, But being given this new freedom to learn from different arts, yeah, that is a pitfall, the dabbling. And I've met many people like that, that 3 months here, a year there, 6 months there. If that's their journey, I suppose that's their journey. Just for me, I like to go from A to Z. All these arts I've mentioned, my teachers have given me instructor rankings, advanced instructor rankings. My Bagua teacher gave me the lineage holder of his system, things like that. I I think everyone's journey is different, and if somebody's a dabbler, they are missing out on a lot of not having, like what you said, that foundation. And also, I think they're missing out on completing things too. It's you don't know what you don't know. So if, let's say you did 3 years of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool, but you still don't know what you don't know. Because me looking at you doing 3 years, I'm like, you still really don't know that much, And so, and that's in any art, right? You just don't know what you don't know. So I think to my benefit to try to complete that art and continue training it. I've met people who go, "Oh, I've trained this art for 10 years and now I train this art." And do you still train the other art? No, 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 no. When I met Uncle Bill, actually, my Kuntao teacher, he said, I said, wow, I wish I met you when I was younger, da da da. I wouldn't have wasted all my time in Taekwondo and this and that. And he said, no, 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 never say that because you never wasted your time. I want you to continue training your Taekwondo because that was never a waste of time. Every art is valuable and every art has something to contribute. And I thought, wow, that's very cool coming from such an old school teacher like him. And so, yeah, yeah. So Bruce Lee said something that I think helped and also hurt the martial arts. He said, absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, and add specifically what is your own. And yeah, of course, a lot of people quote that, I'm just taking what's useful and I'm gonna throw away what's useless, and then I'll just make up my own stuff. And I think some people that they really follow that advice. And to me, when I read that, I thought, who am I to say what's useless? Am I so arrogant to say what is useless? I mean, maybe there's something that's useful that at that time I was ignorant to say it's useful. And now I'm rejecting it. And whereas if I would have said it's useful, it would have become useful later on when I really understood it. And so I just thought, just train everything, just keep training, train everything, keep training. And yeah, sure enough, there's a lot of things like, for example, forms, katas, for example. It used to be very bewildering. What am I doing here? Da, da, da. Especially the Taekwondo stuff. You can't fight with that, and it's really hard. It really is hard to, huh, huh, huh. People don't fight like that. But those movements, they translate to so many other things as well too. Later on, I understood that. But had I thrown it out and just completely stopped training it, it would have been a big waste of my time. And I always thought if I didn't train the arts that my teachers taught, it would have been a waste of my time. And more shamefully, it'd be a waste of their time. It'd be a shame on me because I'm disrespecting the time that they gave to me to teach me this stuff. And now I don't train it. That's so disrespectful. That's how I look at it. And so I train everything. Everything my teachers teach and taught, I still train it. That's why I'm so lucky to have created these clinics. I have time to train. I have time. That's all I do is if you watch the Yip Man movie, you know how he just sits around and bangs his wooden dummy. That's kind of what I do. I just train. I train, and it's just an amazing vehicle for self-growth.
That's awesome. Mm.
Yeah, we're an hour into it. I know. I keep rambling on. Again, like I said, I think before we start recording, I'm kind of an introvert, but when it comes to martial arts, I'm a zealot. I could be that Mormon kid. Tick, 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 tick. Hey, have you found God? I could be that kid. Hey, tick, 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 tick. Hey, have you found martial arts? You got to do martial arts, and I don't care what you do, whether that's karate or kali, Krav Maga or kickboxing, Muay Thai or whatever, judo or jujitsu. Go train something. Train. Martial arts is so amazing. It's a big world. There's something for everybody, and it's the best activity for people to do, period. It trains mind, body, spirit, everything.
That's so cool. So here we go. I got a question for you. I assume you teach.
Mhm.
And so let's say a new student, green as all ever, fresh, first day. What do you show them?
Ah.
With all your background, here comes a brand new, doesn't know anything, master, I want to learn martial arts. What's the very first thing you show somebody?
I show everything. No, yes, right here. Let's do some Muay Thai. Let's do some Jiu-Jitsu. Let's do some Wing Chun. Let's do some Bahua. Well, I would ask them, of course, why do you want to learn martial arts? What is it that you're interested in from the martial arts? Maybe it's self-defense. Maybe they want to get into it for health reason. What I saw in one of your videos that really was cool is not self-defense, but it's more health defense. I love that. I'm going to steal that when I teach. Yeah, that's another thing too. Online, people poo-poo this, poo-poo that. Especially guys at McDojo Life. I know Rob from McDojo Life. We've met, we've talked, we know each other. And he's a really cool guy actually, but his crowd is kind of toxic. Like they'll just jump on you if you do any kind of what they consider weird. And I think for me, it's important to respect people's reasons for doing martial arts. And there are many reasons people do martial arts. And some people do it for health. And that's the perfect reason to do martial arts. Even if it looks funky, it's healthy. Oftentimes like when like McDojo Life posts like some guy doing some funky thing, and I'll go on there and I'll say, "Hey, this is still better than binging Netflix and eating Cheetos on the couch and making fun of people." He's still he's like way ahead of anyone doing that. And so if you're just doing it for health, that's something to be respected. If you're doing it for sport, that's fine. Some people they play pickleball, they play they bowl, whatever. Some people do martial arts as a sport, point karate, full Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, even MMA. That's their sport. Some people do it for a spiritual reason. Yeah, that's kind of why I love Bagua and things. It gets into that spiritual realm as well too. Some people do it for just social reasons, like meeting cool people like you. That's why I'm spending my time hanging out with you. It's just you meet the coolest people in the martial arts. Sure, you meet some of the kookiest people in martial arts as well too. But it's a whole cast of characters, and I love it. And so, if your reason is simply to socialize, I have a friend who does Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he's usually just there most of the time when there's some potluck or there's some get together. He's there for sure, but he's in and out of class a lot. But if you have some kind of get together, he's there. He's there. So if that's your thing, if you just do it to socialize, that's your thing. And of course, this is one thing that all other exercises are inferior to martial arts. I always say martial arts is the king of exercise because of this. If you need to protect yourself, you have a much better odds of protecting yourself if you're doing martial arts versus pickleball or Zumba or something. There's nothing wrong with doing those, of course. But if you practice martial arts, you have a much better, you get all the same benefits. And at the same time, you get that benefit of being
Yeah.
able to protect yourself, having more odds of defending yourself.
Yeah, martial arts, it's fun. It's fun to watch. It's
Yeah.
fun to do.
Yeah.
It's healthy,
Right.
practical.
Hmm.
It's spiritual,
Yes.
cultural,
Oh, yes, definitely.
fulfilling. It's so, yeah, get that from Zumba. Good luck. Um, what you were saying about your buddy that socializes, we have a catchphrase for that too. It's too much tongue fu, not enough kung fu.
Yes, yes, I love it.
Okay, so sir, I want to ask you one last question. Where do you see traditional martial arts going as a traditional martial artist that cross trains?
Hmm.
Where do you see the traditions going?
I could be totally wrong. I could be totally wrong. I go around the country teaching seminars. I participate in a lot of different groups. I go to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournaments with my students. I go to Muay Thai events with the school. I go to traditional martial arts events like the one we met at, the Kung Fu tournament. Uh, I, I participate in many circles because I like to socialize too, and the Kung Fu as well too. Uh, and I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I do see a decline in traditional martial arts, uh, especially like art like Silat. Back in the 90s, the late 90s, early 2000s, Silat seminars were just packed. There's so many people in these seminars. Nowadays, gosh, I'd say we're down to a quarter of the people that come to these things, maybe half or a quarter. I wonder about the youth as well too. You know, when you say bagua or even any traditional art, what they think of it, because popular media pushes them towards UFC, MMA, those things. Not that that's bad. Not that that's bad. It's just I don't know where the youth are going with this right now, and I hope that the arts will continue on strong. I've seen some teachers kind of pass away, and then the art kind of just fizzles out uh, somewhat. And so I don't know. I don't know. Fingers crossed that traditional art stays strong and continues on with the youth as strong as it has always been. But if we, you, myself, who train traditional arts and teach traditional arts, if we don't do something about that and push it out there, I think it can be an endangered species.
Mm, mm.
What do you think?
Well, I share your sentiment. I think that cultural iconic events such as a Kung Fu Panda or Avatar: The Last Airbender that really captures the youth and gets them interested in something deeper, those kind of come too far and few between, you know? And so I think you're right in that we're not getting the youth, and it's far more engaging to be on a mobile device or a video game. And the hard work of Kung Fu or any martial art for that matter, uh, it's, people don't want to eat bitter. It's, my teacher would say, the wise want bitter, children want candy, you know,
Hmm.
uh,
Right.
want our minute rice and our drive through. And so Kung Fu martial arts kind of don't fit in that category. It takes a special mindset to invest over time and to be okay with making mistakes and to still have perseverance and dedication in spite of doubt and insecurity and challenge and opposition. It's a very special type of character. And yeah, so tradition or not, of course, we see it in the traditional martial arts, but I think in anything that requires effort in the trades, we're seeing less craftsmen. We're not seeing as many electricians. We're not seeing as many carpenters. We're not seeing as many, we're losing skills, period. And so I see the decline and the yin to that yang. I also have faith that nothing's ever lost. And I refer to this quite often. There's a documentary called Rise, and it's about these youth in LA that do what's called crump dancing, and they paint their faces as clowns. And that's their style, right? And the particular style of dance, it has it's unique, it's distinct, um, but they use it to settle dispute, conflict mediation, emotional duress. This is their medium, and it was kind of a thing that took over the youth a number of years back. And so this documentary shows these kids in the streets dancing, but then it shows this African tribe with the exact same face paint, the exact same movements for the exact same reasons. And a world apart, generations apart, cultures apart, and yet it's the exact same shit. And so on one hand, yeah, it's dying. And on the other hand, is anything ever really lost?
Right.
So
I like that viewpoint. It's very Taoist. Things aren't lost; they simply change.
yeah, and it's like um, it kind of goes back to the forms. It's, my answer to that question I asked you, the test track. I learned this form called water dragon. And then whenever I learn something new, whenever I have a breakthrough, whenever I have aha, I go back to water dragon and wouldn't you know? It was there all along. I just didn't have the eyes to see it.
Right, right,
And so, to your point, is it really something that we should reject? Is it really invalid
right,
or inferior, or we just don't understand it yet?
right. Yes,
Right? Because electricity is always around us. We didn't know how to harness it until recently.
right.
It didn't mean that electricity didn't exist before we harnessed it. No, electricity was around.
Right.
We just had to tap it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, all these secrets are in these forms. All these secrets are in our bones. Just tap it. Yay. Well, that's a good spot. Yeah, hour and change. Yeah, yeah, that's good. Good, 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 good.
What am I cooking?
Conrad, you're close. I like to do these things with people here at my table.
Mm,
You're in San Francisco.
right.
Okay, at some point we'll get you here.
We'll make it happen. Yeah.
Cool.
And I'd love to hang out with you some more, of course. You know, we're kindred spirits, twins, except you're the better looking one.
And you're the far more skilled one.
No, no, no. We're all on the same path.
Well, fun. Fellow martial arts nerd takes one to know one. I loved how you were like pointing out stuff and we were going off on all these tangents before we even started. It's like, oh, you know a lot about martial arts. Like, oh, you know a lot about martial
Right,
arts.
right. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I, yeah, love to hang around with you some more.
Cool. Sir Conrad, I'll go ahead and end here.
All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you made it this far, I'm surprised.
All right, I want to press this button.